1. The myth of Pangu creating heaven and earth. China, once was great empire, has an extensive and profound history. According to ancient tradition, from the legendary Yellow Emperor to the present day, there are approximately 5,000 years of recorded history, often referred to as the 5,000 years of civilization. Throughout these 5,000 years, many touching and meaningful stories have been passed down. Many of these stories have written records. As for events that occurred before this recorded history, during the distant past, there are no written records, but myths and legends have been passed down through generations. One such myth addresses the question, where did human ancestors originate? In ancient times, a popular myth described how the world came into being, the legend of Pangu creating heaven and earth. It tells of a time before the world existed, when the universe was nothing but a vast, chaotic mass, with neither light nor sound. Then, Pangu emerged. Wielding a great axe, he split the chaos apart. The lighter elements floated upward to form the sky, while the heavier elements sank downward to create the earth. From then on, the sky grew 1 jong, about 3.3 meters, higher each day. The earth thickened by the same measure, and Pangu himself grew taller at the same rate. This process continued for 18,000 years. Eventually, the sky became vast and high, the earth became thick and solid, and Pangu had transformed into a giant who stood between them. When Pangu finally passed away, different parts of his body transformed into the sun, the moon, the stars, mountains, rivers, trees, and all elements of the natural world. This is the myth of Pangu creating heaven and earth. Although myths are, after all, just myths, and no one today believes such events truly happened, people still cherish the story. When discussing history, they often refer to the beginning as the time since Pangu created the world. This myth symbolizes humanity's immense spirit of conquering nature and its boundless creativity. The origin of humanity and early humans. So, where does human history truly begin? As scientific knowledge advanced, archaeological discoveries of fossils provided evidence that humanity's earliest ancestors evolved from ancient apes. Chinese scientists have excavated many fossilized remains and relics of early hominins across the country. These discoveries indicate that primitive humans have lived in what is now China for over 1 million years. For example, the Yuanmo man found in Yunnan is estimated to be around 1.7 million years old. The Lantian man, unearthed in Shaanxi, dates back roughly 800,000 years. Perhaps the most famous, the Peking man, lived between 400,000 and 500,000 years ago. The life of Peking man. Let's start with Peking man. They lived in the Zhoukoudian region near present-day Beijing. At that time, the climate in northern China was milder and more humid than today. Lush forests, shrubs, and dense wild grasses covered the land. Ferocious animals such as tigers, leopards, wolves, and bears roamed the mountains and woodlands, alongside elephants, rhinoceroses, and spotted deer. Though Peking man was not as physically strong as these wild beasts, they possessed something that set them apart from all other animals: the ability to craft and use tools. These tools were quite rudimentary, wooden clubs and stones. While wooden clubs were readily available from the forests, they were modified and shaped by human hands. The stones were also artificially chipped and hammered to create crude but functional tools. With these simple tools, Peking man gathered fruits and dug up plant roots for food. They also used wooden clubs and stone tools to defend themselves against wild animals and hunt for food. However, such primitive tools were extremely limited. The food they could obtain was scarce, and surviving alone was impossible. To protect themselves and secure food, they lived in groups, working together and resisting the attacks of wild beasts. These early social units were called primitive human communities. The evolution into modern humans. Over hundreds of thousands of years, early humans evolved through their struggles for survival. At the mountaintop caves of Dragon Bone Hill in Zhoukoudian, archaeologists discovered evidence of another type of early human. These individuals closely resembled modern humans in appearance. They are known as Upper Cave Man. The Upper Cave Man's tools were significantly improved. Not only did they shape stones into axes and hammers, but they also crafted needles from animal bones. Though a small item, the bone needle was a significant technological advancement. At that time, making such a tool was no easy task. With bone needles, they could sew animal hides into clothing, unlike the Peking man, who lived without clothing. Upper caveman also lived in groups, but their communities were structured based on blood relations. Every member of the group descended from a common ancestor, forming what is known as a clan society. With this, human civilization entered the era of the clan commune. Thus, from ancient myths like Pangu's creation of the world to scientific discoveries of early human evolution, we can trace the long journey of humanity's origins and development. 2. The legend of making fire by drilling wood. As primitive human communities evolved into early clan-based societies, their way of life underwent significant changes. Ancient Chinese myths recount many such transformations. Among these myths, several legendary figures are depicted as both leaders and inventors. These legends, although mostly products of imagination, reflect how ancient people envisioned their ancestors' lives. In the early days, primitive humans had only the simplest tools and lived in constant danger from wild beasts. They observed that birds built nests in trees, safe from predators that could not climb up. Learning from nature, they began constructing their own shelters in trees, which greatly improved their safety. This practice was later known as Go Mu Wei Chao, meaning building nests with wood. While this innovation was likely developed collectively, the legend attributes it to a single figure named Yu Chao Shur, or Master of Nests. The discovery and control of fire. The earliest humans had no knowledge of fire, consuming raw food directly. While eating raw fruits and plants was manageable, they also ate wild animals raw, fur, blood, and all. Over time, they discovered fire. Archaeological evidence from Zhoukoudian, where the Peking man lived, shows traces of controlled fire, proving that humans had already learned to use it. Fire existed in nature long before humans discovered how to control it. Volcanic eruptions and lightning strikes often ignited forests, creating flames. Initially, primitive people were terrified of fire. However, they eventually discovered that animals burned in wildfires had a delicious aroma. Through countless trials, they learned to cook food over fire and found ways to preserve fire to ensure it did not go out. After a long period, humans developed methods to create fire at will. They discovered that rubbing hard, pointed wood against another piece of wood could produce sparks. Others found that striking flint together could ignite dry grass. This marked the invention of artificial firemaking, a critical breakthrough in human progress. Archaeological findings confirm that the upper cave man at Zhoukoudian had already mastered this skill. While the true inventors were early laborious, legends credit this discovery to Sui Ren Shur, or Master of Fire. The ability to make fire was a revolutionary advancement. With fire, people could cook food anytime and expand their diet. It is said that Sui Ren Shur also taught people to catch fish. Previously, creatures like fish, turtles, clams, and mussels were inedible due to their strong, fishy odor when raw. With fire, these foods became palatable. The invention of hunting tools and animal domestication. As time passed, humans continued to innovate. They learned to weave ropes into nets for fishing and hunting, significantly improving their ability to catch animals. The invention of bows and arrows further revolutionized hunting. Unlike earlier methods relying on wooden clubs and stone tools, bows and arrows allowed people to hunt not only land animals but also birds in the sky and fish in the water. Captured animals were often kept alive, allowing people to store food for later consumption. Over time, humans learned to domesticate and raise animals instead of relying solely on hunting. These skills, net making, hunting, and animal husbandry, were gradually developed through collective labor and experience. However, myths credit their invention to Fu Shi Shur, also known as Pao Shi Shur, whose name signifies his role in early food preparation and livestock domestication. The birth of agriculture and herbal medicine. The era of hunting and fishing lasted for countless years, but human civilization continued to advance. At first, people occasionally scattered wild grains on the ground, only to discover new plants sprouting the following year. They realized that deliberately planting grains could yield more food. To facilitate cultivation, they crafted rudimentary wooden plows, known as lei sai, which allowed them to cultivate larger fields and increase their harvest. The myth credits the introduction of agriculture to Shennong Shur, or divine farmer. Legend states that Shennong not only taught people how to grow crops but also personally tasted various wild plants and fruits. Some were sweet, others bitter, and some were even poisonous. Through these experiments, he identified both edible foods and medicinal herbs. It is said that the foundation of traditional medicine originated from this era. The reflection of reality in myths. While figures like Yu Chao Shu, Sui Ren Shu, Fu Shi Shu, and Shun Nong Shu never truly existed, their legends encapsulate real historical developments. From learning to build shelters and make fire to hunting, animal domestication, and agriculture, these myths symbolize humanity's progress in harnessing nature. In 1952, archaeologists unearthed a prehistoric village at Banpo, near Lebanon, dating back 6,000 to 7,000 years. The findings confirmed that early humans had already mastered animal husbandry and farming during this period. This discovery provides scientific evidence supporting the stories of humanity's early advancements. Thus, from firemaking to agriculture, these myths reflect the incredible journey of human civilization. 3. The battle between the Yellow Emperor and Chiyou. Around 4,000 years ago, numerous clans and tribes lived along the Yellow River and Yangtze River basins. Among them, the Yellow Emperor, Huangdi, was the most renowned tribal leader in ancient Chinese legends. The tribe led by the Yellow Emperor originally lived near the Ji River in the northwest region of China. Later, they migrated to Zhuolu, now in Zhuolu and Huailai counties of Hebei province, where they began to develop animal husbandry and agriculture, eventually settling down. At the same time, another tribal leader, the Flame Emperor, Yendi, lived near the Jiang River in the northwest. It is said that the Flame Emperor's tribe was closely related to the Yellow Emperor's tribe. However, over time, the Flame Emperor's tribe weakened, while the Yellow Emperor's tribe grew increasingly powerful. During this period, a fierce and formidable tribal leader named Chiyou emerged from the Zhuoli tribe. According to legend, Chiyou had 81 brothers, all of whom had the bodies of wild beasts, bronze heads, and iron foreheads. They fed on sand and rocks and were known for their unparalleled ferocity. Chiyou and his people crafted various weapons such as swords, halberds, bows, and crossbows, frequently leading their warriors to invade and plunder other tribes. One day, Chiyou launched an attack on the Flame Emperor's territory. The Flame Emperor gathered his forces to resist but was no match for Chiyou. Defeated in battle, the Flame Emperor had no choice but to flee to Zhuolu and seek help from the Yellow Emperor. The Yellow Emperor had long wanted to eliminate Chiyou, who had become a menace to all the tribes. Seizing the opportunity, he united various tribes and prepared for a decisive battle against Chiyou. The two sides clashed on the fields of Zhuolu in a fierce and legendary war. The mythical battle. There are many mythical tales about this battle. It is said that the Yellow Emperor had tamed 6 types of wild beasts: bears, pai, wild boars, paishio, a mythical beast, chu, another type of mythical beast, and tigers. During the battle, he unleashed these ferocious creatures against Chiyou's army. Some believe that these animals represented 6 warrior clans named after wild beasts. Although Chiyou's warriors were fierce, they could not withstand the combined might of the Yellow Emperor's forces and these powerful creatures. They began to retreat. The Yellow Emperor's army pursued them relentlessly. Suddenly, the sky turned dark. Thick fog spread across the battlefield, accompanied by fierce winds, torrential rain, and deafening thunder and lightning. The Yellow Emperor's troops struggled to advance. It turned out that Chiyou had summoned the Wind God and Rain Master to aid him in battle. However, the Yellow Emperor was not easily defeated. He called upon the Celestial Maiden to help disperse the storm. In an instant, the wind ceased, the rain stopped, and the sky cleared. With renewed strength, the Yellow Emperor's army finally defeated Chiyou. Another legend tells that Chiyou used sorcery to create a dense fog, causing the Yellow Emperor's soldiers to lose their way. In response, the Yellow Emperor invented the direction-guiding chariot, Jinan Che, which helped his troops navigate through the fog. Guided by the device, they successfully tracked down Chiyou, captured him, and executed him. These mythical elements reflect the intensity of the battle. The unification of tribes. The tribes rejoiced at Chiyou's defeat. The Yellow Emperor, having secured victory, gained the allegiance of many tribes. However, a conflict later arose between the Yellow Emperor's tribe and the remnants of the Flame Emperor's tribe. The two sides clashed at Banquan, southeast of present-day Zhuolu County, Hebei Province. The Flame Emperor's forces were defeated, and from then on, the Yellow Emperor became the leader of the tribal alliance in the Central Plains region. The achievements of the Yellow Emperor. The Yellow Emperor's era is associated with numerous innovations. Legend credits him with inventions such as the construction of palaces, the creation of carts and boats, and the development of 5-colored garments. Of course, these advancements were the result of collective efforts over time, but later generations attributed them to the Yellow Emperor. One of the most well-known stories involves the Yellow Emperor's wife, Chiyou. She actively participated in labor and made an important discovery: silkworms. In ancient times, silkworms were wild, and people did not know their value. Chiyou taught women how to raise silkworms, extract silk, and weave fabric. From that time onward, silk production began. Another important figure from the Yellow Emperor's time was Chiyou, the official historian of the tribe. He is credited with the creation of China's first written characters. Although no texts from that era have survived, his contribution is celebrated in Chinese history. The legacy of the Yellow Emperor. Ancient Chinese legends highly revere the Yellow Emperor. Later generations regarded him as the ancestor of the Chinese, Huaxia, people and called themselves his descendants. Since the Flame Emperor's and Yellow Emperor's tribes were originally related and later merged, Chinese people often refer to themselves as the descendants of Yang and Huang, Yang Huang Zizhen. To honor this legendary ancestor, later generations built the mausoleum of the Yellow Emperor, Huangdi Ling, on Chaoshan Mountain in present-day Huangling County, Shaanxi Province. The Yellow Emperor remains a deeply respected figure in Chinese cultural heritage.